The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with the usual mix of languages, smells, and tensions that came when 12 different alien species tried to work together. Commander Zektar of the Hegemony walked through the massive doors, his 4 arms carrying data tablets that felt heavier than they should. The information on those tablets would change everything, but he knew the Council would not listen. Above him, the crystal dome showed the swirling colors of the Nexus Nebula. Ships from across the galaxy came and went like busy insects. Trade vessels from the Merchant Federation, war cruisers from the Hegemony, science ships from the Academic Authority. It had been this way for 300 years. Peace, trade, and the comfortable belief that they knew everything about their galaxy. Zektar's boots clicked on the polished floor as he made his way to the emergency session chamber. Around him, other species went about their daily business. The tall, thin Vexani from the Trade Federation discussed profit margins with short, round Gorak mining representatives. Kesra scientists examined artifacts in glass cases, their tentacles moving in quick, excited patterns. Nobody paid attention to the strange readings in his data tablets. Nobody cared about the ships that had been vanishing along the outer rim. They all had more important things to worry about. The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each designed for different alien bodies. Zektar took his place at the Hegemony station and waited. One by one, the other council representatives arrived. Councillor Vexani slithered into her seat, her snake-like body coiling comfortably. Her yellow eyes fixed on Zektar, with barely hidden annoyance. "Commander, this emergency session better be worth interrupting my trade negotiations," the others murmured. Agreement. General Thok of the warrior clans scratched his furry chest and yawned, showing teeth like daggers. Dr. Prime of the Academic Authority's mechanical eyes whirred as they focused on the data tablets. "Fellow council members," Zektar began, his voice echoing in the chamber. "We have a problem. In the past 6 months, 17 ships have vanished along the Outer Rim territories. Mining stations have gone silent. Deep space monitors have recorded energy signatures that match no known technology in our databases." Vexani's forked tongue flicked out. "Pirates, raiders, nothing new, Commander." "No," Zektar insisted. "These are not normal attacks. The ships vanish completely. No wreckage, no distress calls, no survivors. And the energy readings." He activated his tablet's holo display. Strange wave patterns filled the air above the table. "These signatures are unlike anything we have seen before." The council representatives leaned forward, studying the data. "Doctor," Prime's mechanical voice clicked and whirred. "Fascinating. The power levels suggest technology far beyond current galactic standards. But this is impossible. No species in our records possesses such capabilities. Unless," Vexani said with a mocking smile, "it's the ghost ships of the mythical humans." Laughter rippled around the chamber. Even serious Dr. Prime's mechanical systems made sounds like chuckling. Zektar felt his blood temperature rise. "This is not a joke, Counselor. The evidence suggests..." "Evidence suggests what?" interrupted General Thok. "That a fairy tale species has returned from the dead?" "Commander, the humans are myth. Stories told to scare children. The Sol incident happened 300 years ago. Earth was destroyed. The human species was wiped out. They exist only in old war stories and archaeological sites. Archaeological sites like the ones Dr. Kesra found last month," Zektar said quietly. The laughter died. All eyes turned to the empty chair where the xenobiologist usually sat. She had been invited to this session but had not arrived. "Where is Dr. Kesra?" asked Dr. Prime. "Detained by the Academic Authority, Doctor," Prime replied. "Her recent findings have been classified pending review. The artifacts she claimed to discover on Terminus 7 have been determined to be contaminated samples, possibly plant evidence designed to create panic." "Convenient," Zektar muttered. "Commander," Vexani's voice carried warning, "you sound like you actually believe in these human ghost stories. Next you will tell us that Earth's survivors have been hiding in dark space, building a secret empire." More laughter, but this time, it sounded forced. Zektar noticed that some council members were no longer smiling. "The energy signatures are real," he said firmly. "The missing ships are real. Something is happening in the Outer Rim, and we are ignoring it because it doesn't fit our comfortable version of history. History written by winners," General Thok growled. "The humans were warriors, yes. Dangerous, yes. But they were also primitive. Savage. Their technology was centuries behind ours. Even if some survived the Sol incident, they could never pose a real threat to the combined fleets." "Could they not?" Zektar asked. 300 years is a long time. Long enough to learn, long enough to grow, long enough to plan. The chamber fell silent. Outside the crystal dome, ships continued their endless dance between the stars. Trade routes hummed with activity. The galaxy spun on, peaceful and prosperous. "Commander Zektar," Vexani said finally, "you are dismissed. Submit your report to Hegemony Intelligence for proper review. This council has more important matters to discuss." Zektar gathered his tablets and stood. At the chamber door, he turned back. "When those missing ships were attacked, did anyone check if they sent distress calls?" "Of course," Dr. Prime answered. "No signals were detected." "No signals," Zektar repeated, "which means either the attacks happened too quickly for any crew to react, or the attackers used technology that could jam all communications instantly across multiple ship types and defensive systems." He left them with that thought. In the corridor outside, Zektar met Dr. Kesra. She had escaped her detention and waited in the shadows between support pillars. "Did they listen?" she whispered. "No. They called it contaminated samples." She pulled out a small device. On its screen, Zektar saw images that made his 4 hearts race. Weapons that looked like they could crack planets. Armor that seemed to bend light around it. Technology that was clearly alien, but not from any known species. "Zektar," she said quietly. "What if the humans didn't just survive the Sol incident? What if they planned it? What if Earth's destruction was cover for the largest evacuation in galactic history?" Above them, through the crystal dome, the stars looked the same as always. Bright, distant, and safe. Neither of them knew that at that very moment, ships were moving through the dark space between galaxies. Ships that had been traveling for 300 years. Ships that remembered Earth as it burned, and were finally ready to come home. 3 months passed since Zektar's warning to the Council. The missing ships had become missing fleets. Entire mining operations vanished overnight, leaving behind empty asteroid fields and confused families. Trade routes that had been safe for centuries now required military escorts. Captain Mordoon of the Hegemony Deep Scout Division pulled his patrol ship out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler Nebula. His crew of 6 had been searching for answers for weeks. Behind them, the colorful gas clouds swirled in patterns that had remained unchanged for millions of years. "Captain," called his navigator, a young Kesra named Veltar. "I'm reading something strange." "Very strange." Mordoon moved to the sensor station. On the screen, a large object floated in the darkness beyond the nebula. It was clearly artificial, but unlike any design in the galactic databases. "How big is it?" Mordoon asked. 2 kilometers long, maybe 3. The metal is unknown. The power signature is, "Captain, its reading is completely dead. No energy, no life signs, no active systems." Mordoon studied the strange structure. It looked ancient but somehow advanced. Smooth curves mixed with sharp angles in ways that hurt to look at. There were no visible weapons, but something about its shape suggested violence. "Vextar, send a report to Hegemony Command. Tell them we found a derelict station of unknown origin. Request salvage teams and science support." His communications officer, a Trade Federation exchange member, worked her controls with quick movements. "Message sent, Captain. Response time will be 6 hours minimum." "We're not waiting 6 hours," Mordoon decided. "Prepare a boarding team. I want to know what this thing is." An hour later, Mordoon floated through the dark corridors of the alien station. His suit lights cut through blackness that seemed to swallow illumination. Behind him, 3 crew members followed, their weapons ready but hands shaking. The station was clearly designed for creatures that walked upright on 2 legs. The doors were too tall for most galactic species, but perfect for something human-sized. The writing on the walls used symbols that looked familiar but made no sense. "Captain," whispered Veltar through the communication system. "These corridors feel wrong. Like they were built by someone who understood war better than anyone should." They found the main chamber at the station's center. Banks of dead computers lined the walls. In the middle, a large table held star charts that showed the galaxy from angles Mordoon had never seen before. "Look at this," called Security Chief Grontar from across the room. He pointed at a wall covered with pictures, creatures that walked on 2 legs, with pale skin and strange hair growing from their heads. The images showed them in various activities: building, fighting, exploring, learning. "Are those?" Veltar's voice trailed off. "Humans," Mordoon finished. "These are pictures of humans." As if responding to his words, the station suddenly came alive. Lights flickered on throughout the chamber. Computers hummed to life. A low sound, like breathing, filled the air. "Captain," shouted Grontar, "we should leave. Now." But before they could move, a figure appeared in the center of the room, not solid, but made of light and shadow. It was tall, human-shaped, wearing what looked like military clothing. The hologram's face was scarred, and its eyes held memories of things too terrible to imagine. "Greetings," the figure said in perfect galactic standard language. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Scout Corps. If you are seeing this message, it means someone has finally found one of our marker stations." Mordoon's crew stepped back, but he held his ground. "Who are you? What are you?" The hologram continued as if it hadn't heard him. "To the species that now inhabit our galaxy, we leave this simple message. We're coming home." "Impossible," breathed Veltar. "Humans are extinct. Earth was destroyed. Earth burned." The hologram agreed, somehow hearing their words across time. "Our cities turned to glass. Our children's children's children grew up under alien stars. We fled into the dark space between galaxies, where no one could follow." The star charts on the table began to glow. Lines appeared, showing routes through empty space that connected to regions beyond the galactic rim. "For 300 years we built. We learned. We prepared. The galaxy that tried to kill us taught us something valuable. Peace is a luxury that must be earned through strength." More images appeared around the chamber. Space stations larger than moons. Ships that looked like they could break planets. Millions of humans working, building, planning. "We discovered that dark space is not empty. Other galaxies exist beyond your borders, filled with wonders and dangers you cannot imagine. We have become something new, something stronger, something that remembers what was taken from us." "This is impossible," Mordoon said. "The technology, the resources, surviving in empty space. Nothing is impossible for a species that has lost everything and chosen to live anyway." The hologram replied. "We return not as the humans you remember, but as the humans you created when you tried to destroy us." The station's systems began shutting down one by one. The hologram started to fade. "Tell your leaders that the Terran Confederation has returned. Tell them we remember Earth's last sunset. Tell them we remember who caused it. Tell them 300 years was enough time to make sure it never happens again." The lights died. The computers fell silent. The boarding party stood in darkness, staring at empty space where impossible words had been spoken. "Captain," Veltar whispered. "What do we do?" Mordoon looked at the star charts, still glowing faintly in the darkness. Lines that led beyond the galaxy, to spaces where humans had somehow survived and grown strong. "We report to command. We tell them exactly what we saw and heard. Will they believe us?" "They better," Mordoon said grimly. "Because if that message was true, believing or not believing won't matter much longer." As their shuttle departed the station, none of them noticed the new signals appearing on long-range sensors. Deep in the empty space beyond the galaxy, massive energy sources were moving. Ships beyond counting were traveling along routes that shouldn't exist, heading for a galaxy that had tried to forget them. The humans were no longer myth or memory. They were coming home, and they had not been idle during their long exile. 300 years of preparation was about to meet 300 years of complacent peace. The galaxy had no idea how much trouble it was in. Admiral Thexos had commanded star fleets for 50 years. He had fought pirates, put down rebellions, and protected trade routes across 3 sectors. Nothing in his long military career had prepared him for hunting ghosts. "Report," he ordered from his flagship's command center. Around him, the bridge crew of various alien species worked their stations with growing nervousness. 16 more ships disappeared last week, reported his intelligence officer, a multi-eyed Gorak named Spectool. All along the outer trade routes. No distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. Pattern analysis? That's the problem, Admiral. There is a pattern, but it makes no sense. The attacks aren't random. Someone is deliberately targeting specific ship types. Communication vessels, sensor platforms, supply ships. It's like they're mapping our entire fleet structure. Thexos studied the star charts on his main screen. Red dots marked every disappearance over the past 6 months. When connected, they formed a rough outline of the galaxy's defensive positions. Intelligence gathering, he realized. Someone is studying us. The Council still insists it's just increased pirate activity, Spectool said carefully. The Council is wrong. Thexos had reviewed Commander Zektar's original reports. The energy signatures, the impossible technology, the surgical precision of the attacks. This wasn't piracy. This was preparation for war. "Admiral," called his communications officer. "Long-range sensors are detecting a single, unknown vessel approaching the Darien system. Small craft, possibly a scout ship." Thexos felt his predator instincts awaken. How small? Maybe 50 meters long. Minimal energy signature. It's trying to be invisible, but our new detection arrays picked it up anyway. "Plot intercept course. Full battle group. If this is one of our mystery attackers, I want it taken alive." The pursuit lasted 6 hours. 30 hegemony warships chased the small craft through asteroid fields and gas clouds. The unknown ship was fast, incredibly fast. But Thexos had surrounded it with overlapping sensor nets and gravity mines. "Gotcha," he whispered as the trap closed. The human ship emerged from hyperspace directly into the center of his battle formation. For a moment, both fleets stared at each other across empty space. "Open channels," Thexos ordered. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Thexos of the Hegemony Fleet. You are surrounded. Surrender immediately." The response came in clear galactic standard. The voice was female, calm, and utterly without fear. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Terran Confederation Scout Corps. Admiral, you've made a mistake. The only mistake was yours. You've been attacking our ships for months. Now you'll answer for those crimes." A sound came over the communication channel that chilled Thexos to his core. Laughter, not bitter or crazy, but genuinely amused. "Admiral, you have 30 ships. I have one. In your mind, this seems like good odds for you. You're about to learn why you're wrong." "Fire," Thexos ordered. Every weapon in his battle group fired at once. Plasma cannons, missile volleys, energy beams that could crack a moon. Enough firepower to destroy a space station concentrated on a single small target. The human ship vanished. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply gone. As if it had never been there. "Where did it go?" Thexos shouted. "I don't know," his sensor officer called back. "It just disappeared from all readings." The answer came when the Hegemony flagship shuddered under an impossible impact. Alarms screamed. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red. "Direct hit on forward shields," reported the damage control officer. "But that's impossible. Nothing is firing at us. Above us," someone screamed. Thexos looked up through the bridge's transparent aluminum canopy. The human ship hung there, 50 meters away. completely invisible to sensors. As he watched, it fired again, not with plasma or missiles, but with weapons that made space itself twist and bend. His flagship's shields, designed to stop planet-killing weapons, popped like soap bubbles. "Return fire," Thexos ordered. But his weapon systems reported no target lock. The human ship was somehow invisible. While shooting at them from point-blank range, one by one, his escorts died. The human vessel moved like nothing Thexos had ever seen, appearing and disappearing, striking from impossible angles. Its weapons cut through shields and armor like they weren't there. In 20 minutes, 29 hegemony warships became expanding clouds of debris. Thexos's flagship floated alone, its weapon systems destroyed, its shields down, its engines dead. He waited for the killing blow. Instead, the human ship appeared directly in front of his bridge. This close, he could see details. Smooth armor that seemed to drink light, weapon ports that glowed with contained energy, and sensors that felt like eyes watching him. The communication channel activated. "Admiral Thexos, what do you want?" he asked. "To deliver a message. Your species tried to exterminate mine 300 years ago. You turned Earth into glass and ash. You scattered our people across dark space and told yourselves we were extinct." The human ship drifted closer. Now Thexos could see into its bridge through transparent sections in the hull. A figure in form-fitting armor sat in the command chair. Female, as the voice suggested, with scars on her face and eyes that had seen too much death. "You were wrong," she continued. "We didn't die. We grew stronger. We learned technologies your scientists can't imagine. We built fleets that dwarf your combined forces. And we remembered every single ship that fired on Earth during the cleansing." "What are you going to do?" Thexos asked. "Nothing. To you. Today. Your job is to return to the Council and deliver our message. Tell them the Terran Confederation has returned. Tell them we know exactly where every one of their worlds is located. Tell them we remember who ordered Earth's destruction. And if they don't listen," the human's smile was visible through the armor's faceplate. "Admiral, we've spent 3 centuries preparing for that conversation. Trust me when I say we're looking forward to it." The ship began to move away. "One more thing, Admiral. Your government has been wondering how we're making your ships disappear so completely. How? We're not destroying them, we're capturing them. Every crew member, every computer core, every classified database. 300 years is a long time to plan, but it's also a long time to gather intelligence." Thexos felt ice in his blood. "How many? How many ships have vanished? How many crew members now work for us? How many of your secrets do we know?" The human's laughter echoed across the communication channel. "All of them." The scout ship engaged its impossible drive and disappeared, leaving Thexos alone with his dead fleet and a message that would terrify the galaxy. As his engineers worked to restore minimal life support, Thexos stared out at the debris of his battle group. 30 ships destroyed by one. Elite crews killed by an enemy they couldn't even see. The humans weren't just alive. They had become something that made the old galactic powers look like children playing with toys. And they were coming home angry. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 18 hours. Admiral Thexos stood in the center of the great chamber, his once proud uniform singed and torn, telling a story that no one wanted to believe. "One ship," he repeated for the 5th time. "One single human vessel destroyed my entire battle group. 30 warships, gone in 20 minutes. Impossible," Vexani hissed, her serpentine body coiled tight with anger. "Your crews were incompetent. Your tactics were flawed. My crews were veterans. My tactics were textbook. The humans have technology we can't understand and can't fight." Supreme General Kronths stood from his massive chair. The old warrior's forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke. "Even if this tale is true, one ship means nothing. We have 50,000 vessels in the combined fleet. If these human remnants want war, we'll give them the same ending we gave them 300 years ago." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They controlled trade, resources, and the most powerful military force in known space. What could a handful of survivors do against such might? Commander Zektar watched from the gallery above. His warnings had been ignored for months. Now reality was forcing itself on the council, whether they liked it or not. Mobilize everything, ordered Kronths. Every ship, every crew, every weapon. We'll position the Grand Fleet at the Meridian Gate. If these humans want their old territory back, they'll have to come through the combined might of 12 species. What if they don't come through the Meridian Gate? Asked Dr. Prime, her mechanical voice cutting through the noise. There is no other way into the core systems, Vexani replied smugly. The gate controls the only stable hyperspace route. They'll have to face us there. 3 days later, the largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the Meridian Gate. 53,000 warships from every member species formed defensive lines across space. Hegemony dreadnoughts, Trade Federation carriers, Academic Authority research vessels converted to combat platforms, Warrior Clan battlecruisers, and ships from 8 other species. Supreme Admiral Kronths commanded from his flagship, a massive vessel called the Galaxy's Pride. Around him, his staff monitored sensors that watched every approach to the gate. If they come, we'll be ready, he announced to the fleet. The humans were dangerous once, but they were also primitive. 300 years of hiding in dark space can't have changed that. The answer came not from the expected direction, but from everywhere at once. Admiral, his sensor officer called out in terror. I'm reading massive hyperspace disturbances. Ships are dropping out of hyperspace all across the galaxy. The main display showed a 3-dimensional map of galactic space. Red dots appeared over every major world simultaneously. Hundreds of them. Thousands. That's impossible, Kronths breathed. Hyperspace doesn't work like that. You can't coordinate jumps across the entire galaxy. Sir, I'm receiving transmissions from our home worlds. Ships are appearing in orbit around every council capital. They're huge. On the communication channels, voices screamed in a dozen languages. The governor of the Hegemony homeworld reported massive vessels materializing above their cities. Trade Federation outposts sent panicked messages about fleets appearing from nowhere. How many? Kronths demanded. Thousands, sir. Maybe tens of thousands. And sir, they're not attacking. They're just waiting. Then came the broadcast. Every screen in the fleet showed the same image. A human female in military uniform standing on what looked like a starship bridge. Behind her, massive displays showed the galaxy with red markers over every council world. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, her voice calm and professional. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Confederation. 300 years ago, your governments attempted to commit genocide against the human species. You burned our world and tried to exterminate our people. Kronths tried to jam the signal, but it continued uninterrupted. Today, you learn the truth about what happened after Earth died. The displays changed, showing historical footage that made every being in the combined fleet freeze in horror. The real records of the Sol incident, not the sanitized versions taught in schools. Orbital bombardment platforms turning Earth's surface to molten glass. Evacuation ships fleeing into dark space while their world burned behind them. You didn't destroy humanity. You forged us into something stronger. New images appeared. Massive space stations in the emptiness between galaxies. Shipyards that stretched across light years. Millions of humans working, building, preparing. While you grew comfortable in your peace, we explored the deep dark. We found other galaxies, made contact with civilizations beyond your imagination. We didn't just survive. We became the bridge between worlds. Kronths felt ice in his veins as the scope of what they faced became clear. But we never forgot our home. We never forgot the species that tried to murder us. Today, humanity returns to claim our rightful place in this galaxy. The transmission ended. For a moment, the combined fleet sat in stunned silence. Then the real shock came. Admiral, the sensor officer whispered, something's happening at the edge of the system. Space itself seemed to tear open. Not the normal distortions of hyperspace travel, but something far more dramatic. Reality bent and twisted as ships began emerging from wounds in the fabric of space-time. 1 ship, 10 ships, 100 ships, 1,000. They kept coming. Vessels the size of cities, bristling with weapons that hurt to look at. Behind them came larger ships, mobile space stations, floating cities filled with millions of humans who had been born in dark space and raised on stories of their lost homeworld. Count. Krantz ordered in a voice barely above a whisper. Still counting, sir. 5,000, 8,000, sir. 10,000 ships, and still coming. The human fleet arranged itself in perfect formation, facing the combined fleet. Each ship was larger than anything the Council species had ever built. Their weapons were clearly visible. Massive arrays that seemed to bend space around them. Energy projectors that made the vacuum itself glow. Sir, the communications officer reported, we're receiving a message from the human fleet. Put it through. Admiral Chen appeared again, but now she was clearly visible on an actual bridge, surrounded by humans whose technology and bearing spoke of centuries of preparation. Supreme Admiral Krantz, she said, somehow knowing exactly who she was addressing. You have 53,000 ships. We have 10,000. In your experience, this should be an easy victory for you. Krantz said nothing. Your experience is based on fighting beings like yourselves. You've never faced a species that spent 3 centuries learning how to kill star fleets. What do you want? He finally asked. Justice, reparations, and an end to the governments that ordered our extermination. Around the Meridian Gate, the combined fleet waited for orders that never came. Every sensor reading showed the same impossible truth. Each human ship carried enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation of your home worlds, Chen continued. Not because we intend to destroy them, but because your people deserve to see the evidence of what their leaders did to Earth. This galaxy is about to learn its real history. The transmission ended, leaving 53,000 ships facing 10,000 in a silence that stretched across space. The humans had returned, and they had brought the power to reshape the entire galaxy. Supreme Admiral Krantz stared at the human fleet for exactly 58 minutes before making the hardest decision of his long military career. His finger hovered over the button that would order the combined fleet to attack. 53,000 ships against 10,000. The numbers should have been in his favor. But the numbers lied. Every scan of the human vessels showed the same terrifying truth. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy multiple star systems. Their shields operated on principles that Council scientists didn't understand. Their weapons could apparently make space itself into a weapon. Admiral, his communications officer said quietly, the human deadline is in 2 minutes. Around him, the bridge crew of various species waited for his order. Some looked eager for battle, convinced that galactic superiority would win the day. Others, the ones who had studied the sensor readings carefully, looked like they were attending their own funeral. Sir? His weapons officer asked. Krantz closed his eyes and made the choice that would define the next era of galactic history. Stand down. All ships, stand down. Open channels to the human fleet. Admiral? Several voices asked at once. We're not going to fight a war we can't win against a species we wronged. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. This is Supreme Admiral Krantz, to all combined fleet vessels. Lower your shields and power down your weapons. We surrender. The word sent shockwaves through 53,000 ships. In the history of the Galactic Council, the combined fleet had never surrendered to anyone. Sir, his communications officer reported, Admiral Chen is requesting permission to come aboard. 20 minutes later, Krantz stood in his flagship's main hangar bay watching a human shuttle land. The craft was sleek, clearly advanced, but somehow elegant in a way that Council technology never achieved. As the ramp lowered, he got his first look at the species the galaxy had tried to exterminate. Admiral Sarah Chen walked down the ramp flanked by 2 other humans. She was tall, as humans apparently were, with brown skin and black hair streaked with gray. Her uniform was simple but clearly military. What struck Krantz most were her eyes. They held sadness, anger, and something else he couldn't identify. Admiral Krantz, she said, extending her hand in what he knew was a human greeting. He took it carefully. Her grip was firm, but not aggressive. Admiral Chen, I must ask, why didn't you destroy us? You clearly have the power, because destruction was never our goal. We didn't spend 3 centuries building a war machine. We built a civilization. There's a difference. She gestured to the hangar around them. This ship represents the old way of thinking. Weapons, shields, the assumption that power comes from the ability to destroy. We learned something different in dark space, which is, real power comes from the ability to build something better. Chen activated a device on her wrist. Holographic displays filled the hangar, showing images that left Kronth speechless. Cities floating in space, populated by millions, gardens growing in asteroid fields, humans working alongside alien species he didn't recognize. We didn't just survive in dark space, Admiral. We thrived. We made contact with 7 other galaxies. We learned technologies that make your weapons look like stone knives. But more importantly, we learned how to live without needing to destroy others. Then why the fleet? Why the show of force? Chen's expression hardened. Because some lessons can only be taught through strength. Your governments tried to commit genocide. The only way to ensure that never happens again is to make sure everyone understands the consequences of that choice. Over the next 6 hours, Admiral Chen laid out the terms that would reshape galactic civilization. The Galactic Council would be dissolved. In its place, a new galactic assembly would be formed with humanity holding equal representation. All species would contribute to war reparations, not paid in resources, but in shared technology and joint colonization efforts. Most importantly, the true history of the Sol incident would be taught throughout former Council space. Every child would learn what happened when a peaceful species was pushed too far. You're being very generous, Kronth observed, considering what was done to your people. Revenge is a luxury we can't afford, Chen replied. We have bigger concerns than settling old debts. Such as? Chen activated new displays, star charts showing not just their galaxy, but the spaces beyond. We made contact with civilizations from other galaxies, Admiral, some friendly, some hostile, some so alien we can barely communicate with them. Your galaxy has been isolated, thinking it was the center of the universe. It's not. It's just one small part of something much larger. And humanity? We've become the bridge between worlds. Our ships travel routes between galaxies that take decades to traverse. We've learned languages spoken by beings of pure energy. We've negotiated treaties with machine intelligences older than your stars. Kronth felt vertigo as the scope of what Chen was describing sank in. You're saying there's an entire universe of civilizations out there? Multiple universes, actually. The galaxy you've been fighting over is like a single grain of sand on an infinite beach. We're offering to share that knowledge, to bring your species into something far greater than anything you've imagined. In exchange for? Partnership. Real partnership. Not the Council's system of dominant and subordinate species. Humanity doesn't want to rule this galaxy. We want to prepare it for what's coming. Which is, Chen's expression grew serious. Other civilizations have noticed this galaxy, Admiral. Some are friendly. Others see it as territory to be conquered. The humans you tried to exterminate are now the only thing standing between your people and threats you can't imagine. The negotiations continued for 3 days. Representatives from every Council species arrived to witness the birth of the new Galactic Assembly. Some came angry, expecting harsh punishment for their ancestors' crimes. Others came curious about humanity's technologies and the promises of contact with other galaxies. Commander Zektar, vindicated at last, served as one of the hegemony's representatives. Dr. Kesra presented her findings about human archaeology, no longer classified or dismissed. Even Counselor Vexani, forced to confront the evidence of her species' historical crimes, acknowledged the need for change. But the real transformation came when Chen revealed humanity's greatest achievement. Earth itself was being restored. We never gave up on our homeworld, she explained to the assembled delegates. For 3 centuries, human science ships have been working to heal the damage your weapons caused. The atmosphere has been rebuilt. The oceans have been restored. Life is returning to our first home. The holographic display showed a blue-green world spinning peacefully in space around a yellow star. Cities were being built, but not like the sprawling metropolises of other worlds. These were structures that worked with nature, growing from the landscape rather than dominating it. We invite all species to participate in Earth's rebirth, Chen continued. Not as subjects or servants, but as partners in creating something better than what came before. 6 months later, Kronth stood on the observation deck of a joint human hegemony science vessel approaching Earth. Around him, representatives from every former council species watched their destination grow larger. The planet was beautiful in ways that no artificial world could match. White clouds swirled over blue oceans. Green continents showed the return of natural life. In orbit, space stations from multiple species worked together, sharing technology and knowledge. "Admiral," said Dr. Kesra, who had become the project's head xenobiologist, "the humans kept detailed genetic records of every Earth species. They're bringing back entire ecosystems that were lost in the bombing." Kronth nodded, watching as human ships worked alongside vessels from every species in the galaxy. The fear and suspicion that had defined galactic politics for centuries was slowly being replaced by something he had never seen before: genuine cooperation. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving clearance to land at New Geneva Spaceport. The human delegation is ready to begin the next phase of integration protocols." As their ship descended through Earth's restored atmosphere, Kronth reflected on how much had changed. The humans hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had saved it from itself, and then invited everyone to help build something better. The species that the galaxy had tried to exterminate had become its guardians, protectors, and guides to a larger universe full of wonders and dangers that none of them had imagined. The humans were home, and they had brought everyone else home with them.